When people picture the collapse of Rome, they think of barbarian invasions, shattered legions, or scheming emperors dying in lavish halls. Yet empires rarely fall only two enemies at the gates. They decay internally, and nothing accelerates that decay like money over many generations. Rome did not unravel solely from war or corruption. It unraveled when its currency failed. That monetary breakdown carries a warning for every modern society convinced it can manipulate money without consequences. Let us set the stage and trace how value quietly vanished. For generations, the Roman economy rested on a single foundation: the silver denarius. Introduced during the Republic, it was struck with high purity and accepted from Britain to the Near East. Soldiers earned it, traders priced goods in it, and households saved it. The denarius represented more than payment. It embodied trust. Rome's authority and the coin's credibility reinforced each other. As long as the empire projected strength, its money carried unquestioned value, but maintaining dominance demanded immense resources. Armies had to be supplied across vast frontiers. Roads, fortifications, and cities required constant investment. Campaigns against rivals drained treasuries year after year. By the 2nd century, Rome faced mounting pressure on every border while internal stability frayed. Taxation could not keep up with expenses. Raising taxes further risked unrest. The state turned instead to a quieter solution that appeared painless at first. Rather than collecting more silver, emperors altered the coin itself. The denarius continued to circulate, but its composition changed. Silver content was gradually reduced, replaced with cheaper metals. On the surface, the coin looked familiar. In substance, it was worth less. This practice allowed the government to mint more coins without increasing real wealth. It postponed fiscal reckoning while transferring the cost invisibly to the population. The progression was unmistakable. Early imperial denarii contained nearly pure silver. Over time, each reign diluted it further. By the 3rd century, coins carried only traces of precious metal. What had once been solid silver became base metal with a thin coating. Romans noticed coins felt lighter. Surfaces wore quickly. Confidence began to crack. Prices responded immediately. Goods that once required a single coin demanded many. Wages failed to keep pace. Savings lost value. Inflation was no abstraction debated by elites. It reshaped daily survival. Soldiers demanded higher pay to compensate for rising costs. Merchants rejected debased coins or demanded more of them. Trade slowed as trust dissolved. As confidence fell, the state accelerated the very behavior that caused the damage. More coins were issued to cover shortfalls. Each new batch carried less value than the last. Quantity replaced quality. The cycle fed itself. Currency weakness bred inflation. Inflation bred distrust, and distrust forced further debate. Rome had entered a spiral with no easy exit. By the mid-3rd century, the empire entered open crisis. Political authority collapsed into chaos. Emperors rose and fell rapidly, many murdered by their own troops. Borders failed, plagues spread. Beneath these disasters lay a monetary system that no longer functioned. Taxes were collected in coins that bought less every month. Farmers abandoned land rather than surrender harvests for worthless payment. Markets fractured as long-distance trade withered. The state responded with coercion. Laws attempted to fix prices and compel labor. Obligations were enforced by force instead of incentive. None of it restored trust. When money fails, commands replace contracts. Economic life hardens. Productivity declines. Survival replaces growth. One emperor attempted a final intervention. Comprehensive price controls were imposed, fixing wages and goods across the empire. Penalties were severe. The result was predictable. Goods disappeared from legal markets. Black markets flourished. Enforcement intensified scarcity. Currency that lacked value could not be repaired by decree. Eventually, Rome conceded defeat. The denarius was abandoned. A new gold coin of consistent purity was introduced. In the East, it restored stability and endured for centuries. In the West, the damage was irreversible. Military capacity shrank. Trade networks collapsed. Trust never fully reached. Rome did not fall in a moment. It hollowed out slowly. The weakening of its money drained its strength long before armies breached its borders. The coin failed first. Everything else followed. The Roman currency collapse was not an isolated failure. It established a pattern that would repeat across history whenever governments chose expedience over discipline. Money, once severed from real value, becomes a political instrument rather than a neutral measure. Those closest to power adapt. Those dependent on wages and savings suffer. Centuries later, the same logic resurfaced with devastating clarity. After the First World War, Germany faced obligations it could not meet. Rather than accept contraction, the government expanded the money supply. New currency flooded the economy. At first, it eased pressure. Soon, prices surged beyond control. What followed was one of history's most extreme, and by the early 1920s, money ceased to function. Prices doubled in days. Wages were paid twice daily and spent immediately. Savings accumulated over lifetimes vanished. Social order eroded as desperation spread. Those holding physical assets or foreign currency preserved wealth. Everyone else was wiped out. Political radicalism thrived in the ruins. The lesson was not learned universally. In the early 21st century, Zimbabwe followed a similar path. Economic contraction met monetary expansion. Printing replaced productivity. Inflation escalated into absurdity. Currency became meaningless. Citizens abandoned it altogether. Relying on foreign money to survive, the state lost monetary sovereignty by destroying its own medium of exchange. These cases differ in scale and context, but the mechanics are identical. When governments fund obligations by degrading money, they redistribute wealth silently. Inflation functions as a hidden tax. It spares debtors and punishes savers. It rewards those with leverage and harms those without it. Modern economies are not immune. The abandonment of metallic standards transformed currency into an expression of trust alone. Once detached from physical anchors, restraint depends entirely on policy discipline. The temptation to overspend becomes constant. Debt expands. Money supply grows. Purchasing power declines gradually, suddenly. The process is subtle. Wages rise, but costs rise faster. Asset prices inflate, benefiting owners while excluding others. Official narratives frame expansion as growth. Structural erosion is disguised by nominal gains. The currency remains recognizable. Its value does not. What distinguishes the present era is scope. Previous collapses were contained. Today's financial system is global and interconnected. Fiat currencies dominate. Central banks coordinate responses. Trillions are created at moments of stress. Short-term stability is preserved at the cost of long-term fragility. When confidence falters, consequences will not respect borders. Savings denominated in unstable units will erode simultaneously. Those dependent on fixed incomes will bear the weight. Political legitimacy will strain as monetary promises fail. History offers clarity. Inflation is never accidental. It is chosen. It reflects priorities. Empires fall not merely from invasion, but from internal decay, driven by financial mismanagement. Rome's experience demonstrates that currency collapse precedes institutional collapse. The implications are personal as well as political. Wealth that depends entirely on money is vulnerable. Assets grounded in productivity endure longer. Skills retain value when currency does not. Stability must never be assumed permanent. Romans believed their coin eternal. Germans trusted their marks. Zimbabweans trusted their dollars. Each belief proved temporary. Confidence lasts until it does not. Collapse accelerates when trust breaks. The Roman treasury was breached long before its walls. The same vulnerability persists wherever money is treated as illusion rather than measure. The lesson is unchanged. When money loses integrity, society follows. And here is the final truth. History may change its costumes, but the lesson remains unforgiving. Rome's monetary collapse was not only about flawed rulers or corrupt elites. It revealed how fragile money becomes when bent by authority. That weakness still defines our world today. If this shifted how you see the past and present, subscribe Wealth Casebook. History leaves warnings everywhere. and I'll help you recognize them before consequences arrive without mercy.